Hey guys, Larry here. I just wanted to do a real quick, I guess, primer on. It's not going to be so much on how I evaluate notes, more so on I guess the annualized return, the cash on cash. Um, and this video kind of is stemming from the post that I posted on Facebook and also on LinkedIn yesterday regarding the nine performing assets that I'm looking at, and I annualized the returns, and they were pretty high. And so what I did was, I just out of the nine, I took three, and so these aren't the actual numbers. I'm just I just want to make sure that I modify the numbers just so I'm keeping I guess I'm just trying to keep that property a little bit more, not safe, but I don't even know the word honestly. Just until I get things under contract, until I know for sure. I really don't like sharing a lot of those numbers, and that's why I'm posting this video with regards. These numbers are close to what I posted yesterday. So in any event, I'll just kind of just jump in right to it. Usually, I'll get a tape in it, and I'll have like the assets. And what I did was I'll have the borrower's name on here, and then the address, the city, state, zip, the borrower's credit. Depending on whether it's performing or non-performing. These are all performing notes. When the note was originated, the maturity date, the first payment, last payment amount, the next due date, and when the next payment's due, the unpaid principal balance, the interest rate, and the monthly payments, and the appraisal value of the property. And once again, I just totally changed all these values. So these aren't the actual properties that I posted, but once again, they are pretty close to the values. Um, so, typically when I get the property or when I get these assets, I typically ask the person selling the note, what are the price expectations? So that way, I'm not wasting their time, and they're not, and I have a better understanding on what they're looking for. So if they come back and they tell me, oh, we're looking at 90 cents on the dollar for these performing assets, then I can look to see if they fit within my buy box, right? The criteria. Sometimes you'll get 85. In this particular case, he came back and he said 85% of the unpaid principal balance. Well, between 85 and 90, right? So I started off with the 85. I can always go up. I can't go back. So that's why I started at the 85. So and typically, like, what I'll do is I'll start my due diligence on it. I'll look at the taxes, look at the property, look at the assets, see if just kind of going through Google and just making sure that everything looks good. This is even before they send over any collateral files. But I do ask them for an exception report, so that if there are any outstanding things that I need to be aware of, then that way I'll deduct off my offer. And these are all newly originated notes. There aren't any exceptions, just because these are hard money loans where this is an investor that actually went to this company to get a loan to buy this investment property. And these properties have already been full. I mean, they're in gorgeous shape. So I'm not even, it's I have no problems going up even higher on this 85% than this 85%. So they've already rehabbed the property. They're already rented, and they're in the process of getting them financed, or in the process of financing them, or trying to figure out what to do with it. But the properties are in really good shape from what I can tell. But before I buy anything, I order a BPO. I do even though they're newly originated, I will do a title search just to make sure that there's nothing. I get somebody boots on the ground to physically go out and look at the property to make sure that that asset matches up with what I'm looking at, and the appraised value. And this is the actual appraised value of these properties. So They have the reports, but it's the old Ronald Reagan saying, "Trust but verify." Um, so like I said, these were hard money loans. They have a short fuse on them, meaning they're not amortized over 30 years. They're just simple interest payments. Where, let's see, they borrowed X amount, and then they put some a little bit down, and then this is what their unpaid principal balance is. So, and 10% simple interest. It's not amortized over 30 years. Just simple 10% interest or payment. So you take 154 times that, multiply that by 10, divide that by 12, and then you get the monthly payments of 1,283, 625, and 525 a month. So, and what you can do is, this particular seller told me that they're interested anywhere between 85 and 90% of the unpaid principal balance. So I started out at 85%, and then I back out my due diligence costs. So, I'm going to have, recording fees and, BPOs and titles. And then my attorney is going to look over the file. So, I'm just estimating, it's roughly about $600. And what I did on this particular one, I just broke it out per day. I have a servicing cost, it's, on performing notes. And then, depending on who I have with the servicer, I'm just factoring in $50 for servicing. So I take the $50 times 12, and then I divide that by 365, and that's how I come up with $1.64 a day, right? Because the day comes into effect when when I'm going to talk about the cash on cash ROI versus the annualized ROI. So this will become a little bit more relevant as I talk about it a little bit more, and then I look at taxes to see if there's any taxes. So essentially, what my offer is, I take the 85% of the unpaid principal balance, subtract out the due diligence costs, and then not the servicing costs, because that factors into the monthly costs that I'm looking at, and then I back out taxes. So roughly, I'm going to be looking at making an offer of $130,300. If there were taxes of, say, $2,000 here, then my offer is going to be $128,300. But in this particular case, there aren't any taxes. There was taxes due on one of them, but I spoke to the seller, and he did say that they were going to be paid and that they're not going to be an issue. So I just I just zeroed everything out. So my offer on this particular scenario is going to be $130,300 for this one, $63,150 for the second asset, and $52,950 for the third one. So what is that total? For a total of $246,400. Let's see, and then the days invested, because this is a short term. Some of these are out of the 9. Some of them are short term. So if you look at like when the next payment is due, and this was 12/1. They're not behind. They've already made their payment, but I just left the payment in there just to show the example. So you'll see that the maturity date is 2023 this year. This one is in June, and this one is in November. So what I did was I just took the date difference between the two. And so that's how I come up with a date difference of 182 for the first one, 273 for the second one, and 273 for the third one. And I know this is kind of like going in how the sausage is made, so to speak, as opposed to just seeing the final product. Some people's eyes may glaze over with this. With me being an engineer. I love numbers, I love formulas, and I just really get into stuff like that. So what I did was I took the days invested, 182. That's that date difference. That's how I came up with 182 days, and then I divide that by 365 days, because what I'm looking at is I need this fraction part when I calculate the annual return. And I'll show you that here in a little bit. So the interest per day that's coming off of If you do the 154,000 times 10%, divide that by 365, that'll give you the 42.19 a day that is the interest per day that the borrower is making on this loan each and every day. So $42.19. So over the course of 182 days, when this thing is due, right? This thing is due. This note will come due 6/1/23, 2023. 182 days later. So over that 182 days, they're going to make roughly $7,638.36 of payments over that 182 days, and so, and then and then it's the same for the other assets as well. But I'm just kind of focusing on this first one. And then what I also did was I calculated in the overall profit of, if I bought this thing for $130,000 and it had an unpaid principal balance of $154,000, then the total profit, or I'm sorry, the payoff profit is going to be $23,700 for a total. You take the $7,000 that they're making, that they made over the 182 days, plus when they refinanced the house and they totally paid me off, then I made a profit of $23,700 for a total of $31,338.36 in 182 days. Where it gets a little confusing with, when people talk about the cash on cash or the rate of return, the ROI, it's an accumulative value, right? It doesn't take any time into effect. So when you look at the overall cash on cash, you're getting 24.05% based on the profits that you made divided by what you actually invested, right? So that's total. That's what you made in 182 days. But in order to evaluate asset by asset, because some of these assets have shorter fuses, some of them have longer fuses. So you have to annualize these things. So that's when you can really make the determination. I mean, hell, 24.05% is a pretty good return any way you slice it. But what I like to do is I like to look at the annual rate of return, and that's where you annualize these things, and that's where like this days invested. You got to look at that overall of the 182 days. So when you look at the annualized rate of return, you're getting a 54.07% on this one, 38.55%, and 38.89%. So you can actually check this. There's an online return on investment calculator that I can actually post this in the chat, or in the Facebook or LinkedIn notes, so that way you can actually get access to it. So if I just go up to this first one, right, and I invested $130,300, and the profits that I make with my initial investment plus the $7,683 plus the $23,000, the total profit is $31,000. So when you look at that, the amount invested over the investment and length, that's where you take the like if you take this 182 up here, like if you take this 182 divide that by 365. Let me get that to a number and back that out. So 0.4986. So that's the length in years, 0.4986. And if I hit calculate, you'll see that the rate of return is 24.05%. Let me get rid of that here. 24.05% here. And the annualized rate of return is 54.07% right there. So, you have to be careful with the cash on cash. When people talk about cash on cash, it's not factoring in time. Where and the cool thing about it is like if this thing, instead of like 182, say we bought this, and instead of 182 days, they paid it off in 100. Watch what it does to my annualized rate of return. The cash on cash went down to 21%, but But my annualized rate of return jumped up to 102.9 because they paid it off sooner. The sooner you pay it off, the more it jumps up. But the longer it takes, like if I take 273, it jumps down to 373. And the longer it goes, it goes down. So, it's here. Let me change that back so that way I can save everything without messing anything up. That's why when you're looking at your investments, always look at your annualized rate of return, because you want to know that. And then once again, I don't think I mentioned, I'm not offering any financial advice. This is just projected returns. These are the kind of returns that I see on the assets that I buy. But once again, this is investing. There are no guarantees that that this annualized rate of return is going to be 54.07%. It could very well be where the borrower, they get 6 months down the road, and all these properties have already been rehabbed. There are tenants in them. They are physically making the payments, not the tenants, but the borrower on the loan, or they are physically making the payments on these assets. But you don't know what's going to happen in the future. They are in the process of trying to refinance, because this is interest-only payments. It'll be much better for them to get a loan, amortize it, and then that way have their tenants pay it down over time. But worst case scenario is if they cannot get a loan. With me being the bank now, I can a couple things. One, this June time frame comes and they don't want to, they can't pay for the loan. I have the right to foreclose on that note because it had that maturity date. But I don't like to do that. I like to do loan modifications. I like to work it out with them. Foreclosure is the very last thing that I want to do. So typically, what I will do is, if, say, on this first one, 6 months came and they said, hey, I just need a couple more months to finance it, to get finance. And then if a couple months come and goes and they still can't, then we'll have a conversation where, since I'm the bank, I can actually do a loan modification and take this unpaid principal balance and amortize it over 30 years for them. And then, we'll come to some type of agreement on interest rates and stuff like that. So that way, instead of foreclosing and taking the property back, I'm working with the borrower, keep them in there, have them, let them still continue to realize the cash flow on that property. And, they're making payments to me, and, everybody's happy. The tenant has a place to live. The borrower is getting cash flow. I'm getting cash flow. My investors are getting cash flow on this thing. So it's true. It truly is a win-win situation on these type of notes. So in any event, I just wanted to do this short recording. When I say short, looks like I'm up to almost 18. Well, a little over 18 minutes now, 20 minutes. So hopefully this answers a lot of the questions that I have been getting. If you still have questions, please feel free to call me or email me. I'll put my contact information. I'll try to do some type of pop-up here with my phone number and my email address. So, and if you have any questions, just please feel free to reach out to me. But it's like I said, I just had a lot of questions about the cash on cash and the annualized rate of return, and how can it be so high, and things like that. And and then, like I said, this cash on cash right here, this 24%, this is the combined cash on cash after everything has been sold. So anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks. Bye.